My name is Dylan Borland, a former 1N1 geospatial intelligence specialist for the United States Air Force in an active duty enlisted capacity from 2010 to 2013. I'm a federal whistleblower, having testified to both the ICIG and ARROW with direct firsthand knowledge of and experience with crafting technologies that are not ours and are reportedly operating without congressional oversight. Because of my direct knowledge of the reality of certain legacy UAP programs, my professional career was deliberately obstructed. During the summer of 2012, my team was on standby for weather and I returned to my barracks on base, and at approximately 0130, I saw an approximately 100-foot equilateral triangle take off from near the NASA hangar on the base.
And they counted between 35 and 40 infant and juvenile Bigfoot prints.
They kept getting run off at night by these big balls of light, these globe balls of light that would basically chase them out if they were there too late. And then one night he was there late, everybody else had left, and he could hear something walking around the dig area, and he could hear something following him. There were enormous wolf tracks that had followed him down. And what's really strange to begin with is there were no wolves back in the 70s, 80s. I mean, even now they're really rare in southern Utah. This wolf had followed him down to his car. It turned and started out through the sagebrush into the desert, and they followed it. It transformed into a barefoot human track and continued on to the desert.
What I can tell you right now is you're telling me things that you can't find on YouTube or you can't find on any books. You have to be a researcher in the field to know certain things that are not out there, and you're hitting all the things that are not out there. I can tell you right now, you're not crazy. And she goes, yeah, you're legit a generational abductee.
In the middle of the woods at the moment.
Yes, sir. I'm familiar with the area. What was that, sir?
That's not human! That's not human!
Sir, are you okay, sir?
There's something in the back of my truck!
My name is Jeffrey Nusatelli. I'm a former military police officer with 16 years of active duty service in the U.S. Air Force. I'm here today because the American people have both the right and the responsibility to know the truth about unidentified aerial phenomenon. Between 2003 and 2005, 5 UAP incidents occurred at Vandenberg Air Force Base. The incursions began on October 14, 2003, when Boeing contractors reported a massive glowing red square silently hovering over 2 missile defense sites. After several minutes, it drifted further east onto the base and vanished over the hills. When I arrived on scene, I talked to 5 shaken witnesses who described a massive triangular craft larger than a football field that hovered silently for about 45 seconds over their entry control point before shooting away at impossible speed.
Hey, how are you? I'm good, how are you? Oh, well, it's Meat Monday, as I mentioned before I started recording, so I'm going to go out for barbecue. Heck yeah. After eating all this protein now for training, and Can't say that I complain since I'm in the land of barbecue, so it's pretty cool. I was like on Google Maps, like, where's barbecue from my area? And like 10 places popped up within 4 miles. And I'm like, okay, cool. That gives me like a bunch of time to try all these barbecue places. And this one is in a food truck and it says it's open till 8. So
Yeah.
you got ribs in the oven, right?
Yep. It's Meat Monday at my house too. It's I'm having a friend over and I'm making Korean sticky ribs.
Oh, nice.
They're so good.
Nice. Awesome. That sounds really good. You
That's-
do them in a crock pot or?
I do them in the oven, low and slow, and then make like a sauce. I do a rub and then do a sauce, and I've managed to deplete a whole entire rack of ribs to myself at one point. So
Oh, yeah.
it's not hard to do. They're so
Maybe
good.
we should throw your famous recipe up for the members. If
We totally
get
could.
one. If we ever get some members, hey, people, join our Patreon. It's free right now,
Yeah,
but we should definitely throw up your recipe.
we'll get recipes up in here and
Yeah.
tips and tricks.
Yeah, we were thinking about putting up recipes for camping, like Dutch oven bakes and things like that. But ribs, I mean, that's the best.
Oh, I love ribs.
Yeah. It's quite possibly my favorite. I don't know what I'm going to get tonight, though. Maybe brisket.
Oh, burnt ends. Dude,
Oh, I know. I'm so excited.
perks of Texas. There are
Yeah.
a few.
I mean, there are a few, the barbecue is pretty good. But, North Carolina barbecue is pretty good, too. Whenever I go to see
Really?
my son, their barbecue is a little bit different. It's got like that vinegar sauce that they kind of put on top of it. And
Yeah.
it's a little bit of tangy tartness that it's different, but it's also like sweet. And it's not as sweet as like Texas barbecue, I think.
Yeah.
If they put all the barbecue sauce on it, but it's really good.
Yeah. Heck yeah, Meat Monday.
And then Kansas barbecue. How would you classify
I
that?
don't know. I've never had barbecue here, not gonna lie. I make it too well. Why would I eat it here?
That's true.
I do miss me some Moe's though.
Yeah.
Shout out to Moe's.
Moe's in Colorado. Pretty darn good. Yeah. Exciting. So what were your excites and frights this week?
Oh wow. Okay. So for my excite, I have actually a couple. I had met a friend, a fellow food courier friend at Taco Bell when we were waiting very impatiently to pick up our orders one day about a month ago. And but then I just found out she told me she's moving to Arkansas. So which is kind of cool. Like but yeah, so I'm excited. I'm gonna have her over. I haven't really had anybody over. So I'm excited for that. Have her over before she takes off. And then the other night we had a crazy temperature drop. It went from like 50 degrees to, well, maybe it wasn't that warm, but it went down to like 4 degrees and it dropped really fast. And this lake I have outside of my house, if it freezes really fast, you can hear it.
Oh, that's weird.
And you can hear like it sounds like a nest of baby birds. They're like little tweaks and squeaks as the water freezes. And then like as it got later and later in the night, there were just these huge pops. And it was really kind of spooky because you're like, is that somebody with a firearm or like what is happening? But yeah, it was really cool. Just to listen. I sat outside until 4 o'clock in the morning until the pops stopped and like just sat out there and listened. And that was really cool. So that was exciting. I like the scientific aspect of that and just how spooky it is. You can hear the pops echo and it was very fun. And then for my frights, I had a really spooky feeling the other night when I'd come home for dinner and then was going to go back out to work and had a really weird feeling and decided got to the end of my parking lot. And I was like, I'm not going out tonight. Like, I don't know why, something's just wrong. And lo and behold, the next day I saw that there had been a drive-by shooting in that area. So an area that I usually work. So that was my instincts, right? Like being like, hey, don't do it. So I actually came back home and had a really relaxing night. So that was fun.
I'm so glad you did that. That's scary.
It's so scary. Yeah. Crime in this town's wild. People need to do something other than smoke meth, but the other cool thing I had happen, there was something weird that happened the other night from my house. I can look down and see like a ditch that stretches quite a long ways down. And I came to the conclusion that potentially there was somebody floating down the water in this ditch, but there were all these little lights, and the lights would kind of move, and then they'd like jump back and forth between what would have been the shorelines. The coyotes were losing their minds. It was just like a really, really spooky situation. So I had to sit outside and watch that go down too. But yeah, lots of interesting stuff going on around here. It's kind of set back away from the main area, like the main roads and stuff. So there's a little bit of a different, quiet, like almost out of town feel to it. But it's a very cool place. I like it here.
That's cool. That's great. Kind of out in the country.
It feels like it, yeah. And it's like smack dab in the middle of town, but it definitely feels like it's in the country sometimes. But the coyotes give it that like woo woo,
right
feel to it. But
I think my fright for this week, since we're talking about bodies, the local police or sheriff or whatever pulled a body out of one of the creeks here in the city. It's in kind of like a city park. And I get a lot of stuff on Reddit. And so people were saying like, oh, that's a huge drug use area. People just fall in there all the time. And I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
When you start like, I think Reddit is really good for looking at the underbelly of an area that you live in, because people share some of the craziest stuff on Reddit.
Yeah. It's a good, that's a fun rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm. And everything is a rabbit hole. And the sad part of the week was seeing that Colorado got a little bit of snow, but they're still like so far under the snow that they need. So fingers crossed that more snow will happen for my peeps, our peeps in Colorado. We're thinking about you.
Always.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Always listening and loving you people.
My excite for this week is that I know I told you this earlier in the week, but I signed up for a pistol shooting class at the end of the month.
Heck yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about that. It's like like some mixed levels, whatever. I mean, it's definitely beginners, but I think for personal safety and self-defense, I'm pretty excited to get to try different handguns because I want to get one to take out in the field, but like I want to try a bunch of different pistols to see what feels good in my hand and how do I like it. And I think they're all 9mm, but yeah, it's kind of like my parents actually gave me a little Christmas present, so that's what I used it on. And
nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. So yeah,
that's nice. I feel like those things are good too. I mean, I know a lot of people are against guns, but I think that in the right hands, they're a good thing to have. I definitely carry when I work. Being out in the middle of the night, you gotta try and get away from that middle of the night stuff. I'm too old for that, but
it's a dangerous world out there, and people who are trained in the proper use of that, keeping things safe. Like I took my hunter safety, like almost probably close to 30 years ago, and I took my hunter safety. Wow. Spent a lot of time out in the field, like bird hunting, and it's like there's nothing. I mean, mostly it's just hiking with a shotgun, but it gets you out there, and you also feel a little bit safer too. But I miss that, getting to do that, and had some really beautiful moments, like just out in the field, just sitting on my butt, just looking at nature, and nothing ever happened, but that's okay. That's just part of it, and like being out there and listening to the birds and watching nature. And gosh, I wish I knew what I knew now, because I'd be looking for a lot more kinds of wildlife than deer.
Yeah.
But
You take that knowledge and go forth and prosper.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's hear it for the women. We hear you out there. It's not just about the guys,
Nope. We are mighty.
We are mighty. Yeah. Taking care of ourselves, taking care of business.
Take care of ourselves and each other.
Yeah. So, we're recording this. It's on the MLK Day. So I just want to give a shout out to that. Definitely remember where everything's going, because we won't get political, but it's a good day to pause and take a moment of silence and think about all that,
Absolutely. reflect on the work that was done to get us where we are, and
Yeah.
hope that there's still enough people out there to be willing to do the work to keep us going in a positive direction.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why we have to remember those
Yeah.
times in history.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you were talking, I might have you take off and start, because we were talking about how you started to talk about your subject last week, and then we kind of went down a rabbit hole, and we didn't get to finish it. So do you want to continue where you left off, or do you have something different that you want?
I have something different, actually. It was another rabbit hole. Like I'll start to research into something, and then I just find there's always so much information. And I actually had started to watch a really cool documentary about this last night, but I fell asleep. So, but I wanted to kind of talk about the Dyatlov incident back in 1959, where a bunch of hikers went up and they were found dead. They just never returned back home, and then they were found dead, and it was just unusual circumstances as to what would have happened to them. There have been a multitude of theories on this. People think, and the reason I decided to talk about it is just because of the theory that it could have been a Yeti, which I don't think so. But they went up to go for this hike, and then I'm not going to go too much into like the gory details of it, but when they didn't show up on time back home, everybody kind of wondered if something had happened, or if, the weather had caused an issue, avalanche. There were all these, just questions on what had happened to them. And this was up in the Ural Mountains in Russia. It would have been the Soviet Union at the time, in February of 1959. So I think it was about 2 weeks later, a group went up to look for them. They were able to find their tent. It looked like they had cut their way out of their tent and had fled without any of their gear, no proper footwear or clothing. It was pretty much their undergarments or underlayers, base layers, and some of them had socks on, but no boots or anything like that. So a lot of speculation is like, what would have caused them to flee that area, flee their tent, flee safety, leaving all their things behind, and why would they have cut themselves out of the tent? So I thought that was really spooky. Why would they cut from the inside out instead of use a zipper? I don't know. They have zippers back then, I would assume. So what happened was they ended up going up and finding their bodies. Basically, they think that what they said was that so many of them died from hypothermia. It was 9 of them died from hypothermia, and the other ones died of just weird, suspicious circumstances. They had just a lot of traumatic injuries to their bodies. 6 of them had died from hypothermia. The other 3 were killed by physical trauma. So one victim had skull damage, 2 had severe chest trauma that looked like somebody might have stood on top of them and jumped on them, just severe force. Another had a small crack in his skull right behind his ear. And then 4 of these bodies were found laying in a creek, and a couple of those bodies had tongues missing, one body had a tongue missing, 2 had eyeballs missing, eyebrows missing. So that you could almost sum that up to, if they're found face down in a creek, maybe fish or something, wildlife. Some people speculate that it could have been wildlife. A lot of them just had soft tissue damage in their heads and their faces. And so of all the theories of this, they did open up an investigation again in 2018 to kind of look back into this, because there was a lot of hush-hush around it. And they wondered if it could have been something like, at the time, they were around like a military base or nuclear testing base. And they kind of wondered, because of how hush-hush the investigation was, if there's a possibility that it had something to do with the military. If it were military weapons testing or like a nuclear explosion, they did test some of their clothing, and some of their clothing did have radioactive elements to it. And what they ended up deciding from the radioactivity was basically that a couple of the guys that had gone on the hike had worked at a nuclear plant. So they kind of in 2018, I think the investigation basically unveiled that that's where that radioactivity would have come from. So they thought about, animal attacks, avalanches. They decided with the 2018 investigation that it could have been a slab avalanche. So not like the big tumbling powdery that we would think of, but basically when you have a hard layer of snow with a soft layer of snow underneath, it just kind of slides forward. So that seems to be what was settled on most recently as the cause for this accident, because they really just couldn't find any other reason that 6 of them had died of hypothermia and the other 3 had just these terrible wounds and injuries to their bodies. They had also, and I wanted to dig deeper into this, but didn't. It's such a rabbit hole. Appearances of UFOs, ball lightning, had been seen in the area near that time, close to that time. So they wondered if it could have something to do with a UFO or just something else unexplained like that, something else paranormal like that. I think what I originally had wondered is if it had been just an avalanche. Really seemed to make the most sense to me. That would, especially if they were camped on top of the slab that were sliding, they would have been wanting to get out of there as quickly as possible. Some of the other bodies that were found later could have been involved in a different kind of avalanche that would have taken them down the land and over rocks and things, which could explain some of those more intense injuries. But I think that they were murdered, because the way that the bodies were kind of spread out, and then some of them were found really close together, but just those wounds would kind of, and the fleeing that quickly would indicate that maybe a person or persons had come up to their tent and startled them, and they jumped out of the tent. And I did see something that indicated that maybe they had been tied up at one point. So that would maybe mean that they'd been carried far away and then tortured and beaten. And it's really kind of sad to get into. But I think murder seems like the most logical explanation. It's like maybe some of them had gotten kidnapped and taken away from the others who died of hypothermia, and then the ones with the injuries were beaten. And then there's the Yeti theory, and first of all, I don't believe that they have that much violence in them. I mean, you see videos and hear stories of where they've had people have said that they had rocks thrown at them by a Yeti or whatever, Sasquatch, whatever the situation is. But I just don't feel like they would have this much violence, or like that need for violence. I just don't think that that's even something that's possible or likely. Have you heard this story before?
I have, and I think I've seen it on a documentary, and it's always about the Yeti, but it's really cool that you dug up all this other stuff about it, because it does kind of make sense that it might have been a murder. Did they like figure out that any of them have like a motive against them, that someone might have wanted to get rid of them?
No.
Or what about other wildlife? Like,
it talks about wildlife. That could have been the explanation for the missing eyeballs. Of course, that would make sense if you've got fish or you've got birds or something like that. They were able to tell that the woman that was missing her tongue was ripped out while she was still alive.
What about lion, like panthers, not lions?
That wasn't really something that came up. You would think, though, that there would be scratch marks or something like that, and nothing like that was seen. So
I was instantly thinking alien.
Yeah.
But then you kind of debunked the radioactivity. So
yeah,
who knows?
And the two aren't mutually exclusive necessarily.
Right.
But I don't know. They thought maybe if there were an ethnic group, they had a ethnic group that lived there. And they thought that they might have been the ones that killed him, but then they went and talked to these people, and they're like, "Oh, it's not." Then they weren't known to be a type of people that were into violence or anything like that.
Right.
Just in the native people there, that wasn't really their thing. So
it's easy to blame groups of people. Yeah, it's an easy scapegoat, but
it is, and especially with this many people, there were 9 of them, and it would take quite a few people to be able to overtake 9 people.
Totally. Especially like that. I mean, it's one thing if you club them on the back of the head, but the overkill, I think is what it is. Because isn't that what in true crime it's called, overkill, where you do all those awful things to, that seems strange. Yeah.
Very strange. Yeah, murder just seemed like the most logical explanation to me. It's very sad to me that it's never been solved. And I think that, maybe someday we'll be able to find more information about it. But at this point, it just seems like the most logical explanation for it.
I have a question. So did they treat it like a crime scene? Did they collect DNA? What year was this? It
says 1959, so they wouldn't have had the technology and been able to do that at that point.
They would have been able to do blood typing, but probably not like any of the other more recent things, technology, forensics information that we have now that all that forensic science, it wasn't possible.
No.
So
I feel bad for the families. There's no closure when you don't know what happened. It's just really kind of terrifying.
I wonder if the grandchildren, if there are grandchildren, I assume.
Absolutely. Yep.
I wonder if they have looked into it differently than the parents.
Yeah. Makes you wonder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's very spooky to me. It's, and I think that there's a lot that can be said there's so many stories like this, and you can't let that take you away from doing the things that you love just because of the fear of something like this happening. It's very slim chances that something like this will happen, but I think a lot of people would look at something like this and be like, oh no, I'm not doing it.
I'm not going in the woods. No way. But the chance of something like that happening is so rare, but we hear about it because it's such an anomaly. But
yeah, it's very interesting, but I feel like there's a lot more to learn about it, a lot more to know. The documentary I started last night had a lot of good information and had some people that worked on the case at the time. And there's a lot more information to know. And I'm not sure if the case is still open on that or not, but you're going to have your couch sleuths that are going to go after stuff like this, and they'll be able to figure it out at some point. I just think that a lot of it's pretty obvious. They died of hypothermia, but the temperatures were like -25 to -30 degrees. And
that's very cold.
We've experienced that. That's cold. You walk outside and your whole entire life freezes.
Yeah. When your eyeballs, like, don't blink.
Don't blink. Keep them eyes closed.
Keep your eyes open. Yeah, that's a fascinating dive into that. That was really interesting. And I was thinking about you're mentioning documentaries. I was watching a documentary last night, and you mentioned like the violence thing. So in one of the interviews, this was about a Bigfoot encounter, and this guy was swimming down a river, and he was with his girlfriend or whatever, and they were swimming. I guess the water became too fast for them, and so they lost control. And so he was rescue swimming to try to get her onto the riverbank so that she wouldn't drown. And they were in a very remote area, and I can't remember where it was. But anyway, he was able to grab her and then fling her onto the riverbank. And then he was able to like hoist himself up a few seconds later, and then he was standing on this rock, and gosh, I wish I remember his name, but he was standing on this rock, and he turns around, and there is a Bigfoot, and clearly angry, like really, really pissed off, picked up a large rock and launched it at him and tore into his shoulder. I think it was his shoulder. And he was just like, oh God, this thing's going to kill me. What do I do? And he yelled over to his girlfriend who was on the other side of the riverbank. I guess there was like some space between them. And he said, don't scream when you turn around, but turn around slowly. And she did. And she was just like, oh my gosh, do you see that? He's like, I see it, and it's going to kill me, And so I think his instincts like took over, like, it's okay. It's okay. He said, so he was able to swim to the girl, I think is what happened. And he said, okay, hug me, because I think this thing is angry because it thinks I'm trying to hurt you.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so when I heard that, I went, that is the best summation, quick thinking on his part, because I think that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
These people are floating down the river, two humans. Of course, this creature is going to be like, what the hell? And then he sees the male throw the female. Maybe it thought, maybe it went into protective mode, or maybe it was another female, like who knows? But it was clearly pissed. But when you think about it like that, like how many encounters are there out in the woods where people make the wrong judgment on why a creature might be pissed off and angry?
Yeah.
And so
I like the thought of it being like a female.
Yeah. What if it was? What if it was a grandma type that was like, oh no, don't you hurt another female? Because you do hear those stories a lot of how a female will come upon another female or a child and will back away and actually put its hand up like, I'm sorry, I'm going to back away. I'm going to leave you alone. Like there's some cognizance there and understanding that only primates can get. And and I think it was an episode on Sasquatch Chronicles where that happened, where this female and her child were hunting, and they were like hunkered down, and the child had fallen asleep. It was like a young child, like under 5, taking a nap basically. And for some reason, she didn't normally hunt with her kid, but it was just like one of those like, well, I want to go out and I don't have anyone to watch my child, and so I'm just going to bring her. She's going to take a nap, and it's going to be fine. So she heard noises behind her, and she thought, oh crap, there's a bear, like and she was like, oh no, okay, if I'm just gonna hunker down here, I'm gonna be quiet, because if I startle the bear, it's gonna react, and I don't want to do that. And so her child was asleep, and so she just kind of sat there, and then this thing revealed itself and stood up, and she was just like, oh shit, that's not a bear. And this thing was clearly a female. It had breasts, and it saw the human put up its hand, like almost like apologetically, and like, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. And then it backed away. And I find those kind of stories fascinating, and we can add them to the behavior that we're learning about these creatures.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, and I don't remember that episode, but I think I have it saved somewhere. I don't know which episode it was, but so there's those two accounts. So I think, and this is why we're here, because we bring this female perspective, right?
Yeah, that's necessary. I mean, you get, like, no offense to dudes, but they don't quite think as emotionally as we do sometimes, or they think too emotionally. You just never know. But I think that there's just a different kind of emotional intelligence going on sometimes with women than there is with men. So that's fascinating.
I agree. Yeah, pretty fascinating. And I think if you are interested in the subject and you want to research it, I think you just have to listen to, they say that the personal anecdotal evidence is not evidence, but I still think it's evidence. I still think it's data. And so,
of course, I think that's what's interesting about these situations, is that I find the existence of Bigfoot to be undeniable, because you can't have this many people having similar experiences and not have this be something that actually exists. Like, you don't have this many people just making up a story,
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
It's funny. I got my uncle to read Meldrum's book, and he is a professor, and a retired professor of mammalogy, and he knows science. He radiates science. And at the end, he said, well, I think I'm convinced. I said, well, so do you really think there's a bunch of wild, crazy, naked people running around in the woods? Or do you think it's, Occam's razor, the most logical explanation? He said, something to think about. I couldn't, he's a scientist, so I appreciated that he was open enough to at least read the book.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, that wild thing running around in the woods, that's just my friend Sarah.
Jesus. I mean, I can't say that I didn't run wild naked through the woods maybe a few times too.
I wasn't naked.
Nothing wrong with being naked. It's cold. I'm not covered in fur, like you got to plan that time. Got to make sure it's summer.
Oh my gosh, yes. That was my favorite thing about like camping up in the flat tops. You get to go up there and just be kind of wild. And Colorado summers just love you so much.
Oh yeah. I had a few games of naked bocce ball.
Naked bocce ball.
There might have been whiskey involved. There probably was.
There had to have been.
So much fun. Now the craze is cornhole.
Yeah, everybody's all about cornhole.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun though. I like it.
What was another game we used to play on the river? Well, there's horseshoes. Horseshoes is fun.
Horseshoes.
Many, many different games. And the things that we used to light on fire, probably illegally. Oh, man.
Cans of corn in the fire pit.
Yes, corn. Corn. It's like the fireworks show that just... Corn. Beans don't work, though. It's got to be corn.
You can't pull a corn, beans, and squash on that.
Yeah. Did you ever have like a potato gun? A potato rocket?
No.
We did that at Lake Powell. So you take it's made for potatoes, right? And you put the potato in, and then you spray old Aquanet hairspray as igniter in the base of it, and then you light it, and it launches the potato at the boat across the water. So you have like a potato war.
Oh man. That sounds dangerous. I don't know. I had siblings, so there's probably a reason I don't know about this stuff. Lake Powell, though, man, Lake Powell would be an awesome place for us to go indulge in some squatchery.
Definitely. So, yeah, there you go.
I'll go rent
a
houseboat.
Oh, yeah. Got to have a big group of people to do that, though. But good times. Well, so my highlight this week has been reading this book that I have on my Kindle, and I'm really liking having it on my Kindle because it's kind of backlit, And I was telling, so I'm on like chapter 5, and it's talking about Area X in southeastern Oklahoma. Hold on one second. I was just going to open it up. I thought I had some things saved that I wanted to read off if I could figure out how to find my notes on this thing. Nope, that's not it. Okay, I'm not prepared. Edit. I don't even know how to I don't know how to work this thing. I like it, but I don't know how to work this thing. I will figure out how to operate my Kindle. If anyone's listening, they're laughing at me. I think I might edit that. Where the hell is this thing? All right. So my fun little thing is we're going to talk about a castle.
Yeah.
And I am not as prepared as you. Had a very busy week. However, this is a cool castle. It is in New York on the Hudson River. It's called Bannerman Castle. And of course, I went and looked up, is this thing haunted? And apparently there are a lot of stories about Bannerman Castle being haunted. They don't allow tours, though, so I was kind of bummed about that. However, I'm going to talk about the history of this. So it's on this, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this right, but it's called Polypel Island. It's on the Hudson River. It's a 6.5 acre uninhabited island in the Hudson River in New York. Okay. So the principal feature on the island is Bannerman's Castle. It's actually an abandoned military surplus warehouse. And it's had different names over the years. And the indigenous people had a lot of thoughts about this island, which we'll get into with the haunting part. But it's about 50 miles north of New York City. And it covers about 6.5 acres. Most of it's rock, so it's very rocky. It was first encountered by the Europeans during the first navigation of the Hudson River by early Dutch settlers in the province of New York at the northern gate of the Hudson Highlands. During the Revolutionary War, patriots attempted to prevent the British from passing upriver by emplacing 106 upright logs tipped with iron points between the island and Plum Point across the river. So, it sounds pretty awful. George Washington later signed a plan to use the island as a military prison. However, there's no evidence that a prison was ever built there. So it's already kind of steeped in history and legacy. And then if you look at it on the map, it's like really close to the coast. So you can only imagine that the weather there is pretty awful in the winter, especially. The history of Bannerman Castle, it was already treated with a mix of superstition and caution. According to folklore surrounding the Hudson River, indigenous tribes believed that the island was spiritually harmful, with some claiming that evil spirits lived there. So that's kind of where the spookiness came from originally. The settlers kind of picked up on it and told their friends, and they, so everyone kind of avoided it. European settlers later told stories of mysterious spirits and river goblins lurking along the rocky banks. In 1900, military surplus dealer Francis Bannerman VI purchased the island to store his massive post-war munitions collection. For years, he had acquired surplus cannons, rifles, ammunition, naval equipment, and artillery from government auctions, eventually needing a secure location far from populated areas. Bannerman began construction of the castle, which was really an elaborate Scottish-inspired arsenal, in about 1901. He designed the structures himself, incorporating turrets, battlements, whimsical flourishes, and a bold advertisement echoed into the facing wall, Bannerman's Island Arsenal. The family kept a small residence and garden on the island, spending summers tending terraces and pathways while workers stored volatile military goods in the main building. After he died in 1918, the construction, because it was kind of like an ongoing project, stopped and the property fell into decline. So by 1920, a massive explosion of stored munitions destroyed significant portions of the arsenal, shaking the island and damaging the building's structural integrity. Decades later, fires, storms, and the sinking of the island's ferry isolated the site further, so you just couldn't get to it by boat. In 1969, a catastrophic fire gutted the interior, leaving only the skeletal walls. Time and weather continued their assault, culminating in a 2009 partial collapse that permanently altered the castle's appearance. Today, it remains one of New York's most iconic ruins, haunting and steeped in over a century of tragedy, destruction, and mystery. So stories of hauntings on the island, they combine old folklore with more recent tragedies surrounding the castle. Long before Bannerman set foot on the island, the land was tied to dark indigenous legends and sailor superstitions. And those who navigated the Hudson River at night often spoke of eerie lights around the island. In addition, strange winds kicked up without warning. Many held the unsettling belief that the island watched those who approached. And then once the castle was actually built, new stories emerged tied to munitions explosions, sudden deaths, and that fire that left the structure hollowed out. So they pretty much felt like it was just doomed and spooked. There's a couple of different legends, most often associated with Bannerman Castle. The first one is called Spirits of Early Indigenous and Colonial Lore. So this is kind of an enduring ghostly tale that's connected to the island itself. It involves the spirits believed to inhabit the land long before the settlement. And then the indigenous people warned that the island held a dark or trickster-like spiritual presence, causing people to avoid camping or stopping there. Dutch sailors later incorporated these tales into their own folklore and described river goblins or ghostly guardians who targeted new sailors. According to these stories, novices were left on the island overnight as a rite of passage. Can you imagine that? Forced to endure the frightening atmosphere as a test of their courage. So these legends remain the spiritual foundation for the belief that the castle stands on a place that was already haunted long before Bannerman got to the island and started building. And then you jump forward quite a little bit of time, and shadowy figures have been seen moving along the castle's walls. Witnesses from boats on the Hudson glimpse dark silhouettes pacing the battlements or appearing briefly in window openings before vanishing. Others describe a human-shaped figure standing motionless on the island's highest point, visible even from a distance during twilight. These apparitions are often described as solid and distinctly outlined, not tricks of light or mist. So they're seeing something. It's not just like the fog or the shadows or the moon or whatever. So they're actually seeing something. So some believe that these are the spirits of former workers who handled dangerous munitions, while others think they may be manifestations tied to the island's ancestral indigenous lore. Reports are often accompanied by sudden chills or the sensation of being watched, even by those far from shore. So they're seeing this, you know, on the banks, so they're not even on the island, or they're from a boat. And then the deadly 1920 explosion that destroyed part of the arsenal left behind one of the most chilling legends. According to the stories, the blast was so powerful, it shook towns up and down the river. And some claim the spirits of workers lost or injured during the explosion still haunt the ruins. And then even today, boat operators and kayakers have described hearing loud booms or metallic crashes from the island on completely still nights, sounds resembling cannon fire or collapsing stones. And then some say that these noises could be natural shifts within the weakened structure, but the consistency of the reports has fueled speculation of residual hauntings tied to the tragic event. So, and then they also have seen, based on the fire that happened in 1969, people have also claimed to have seen brief flickers of orange light deep within the ruins, as though embers were still glowing, mimicking the fire that happened. Or they sometimes report smelling smoke that's drifting away from the ruins of the castle. So anyway, yeah, it's pretty fascinating to hear the history of that. And yeah, but I think that you can't go, I'm pretty sure you can't go onto the island. I'm not sure if it's like private property and you can't get on there or whatever, but yeah, anyway, I thought that was pretty cool.
That's never deterred me before.
Yeah. Spooky castles. Yeah.
Been into Gilman a time or two.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Gilman. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I was looking on Craigslist for something, and I think it was DoorDash. They were advertising for dashers in Gilman. And I was like, what? That's just such AI crap. There's no town there.
There's no town there.
It's nothing but old dilapidated buildings that have blown out and like remnants of old papers and rusty shit.
Oh my gosh. Have you ever read the thing that I wrote about? I don't know.
Yes.
Did you read it? Okay. I wasn't sure if it was something that I had published or not.
Yeah, we have to put that link in there. I'm going to write that down. So,
yeah, that was, and I can't remember. I wrote it for a college English class, and yeah. She's like, you didn't really go there, did you? And I was like, oh, no.
Oh, I did. I've known a lot of people. I've walked through there, and it was long before they put up like all the, hey, get out signs.
Right. Well, I think that was before somebody bought it. It was still kind of, I don't know if it was still owned by the county or what, but somebody bought it, and then a lot of no trespassing signs went into that. But it's a very cool place.
It is very cool. And there's also another place. There's like an abandoned town that's similar to that. It's south. Let's see. I'm trying to think geologically. It is south of Fairplay. It's like on 285, close to Buena Vista, Johnson Village. But it's like in between there, but it's kind of in the mountains. But there's like another old
St. Elmo.
Huh?
St. Elmo.
St. Elmo? Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yep. South of Fairplay, the prominent ghost town is St. Elmo, known as one of Colorado's best preserved, but also nearby are mining ruins and remnants like Hancock. Yeah, that's a really cool place. I went up there once, and it's kind of like a little bit touristy at this point, or when I was there anyway.
Yeah, I love those old places.
I love a ghost town.
Oh yeah. So are you going to write any more stories about haunted towns? Or that's a cool topic.
It's a hard thing to do unless you go there. But yeah, I've always been super fascinated with ghost towns, and I think that happened when I was young. I don't know how young, but I've always been fascinated with the weird and macabre.
We should do the story of Gilman.
We should. That's a good one.
That is a really good one because it's a fascinating story. And
well, why did they just peace out? Like they peaced out. I mean, I think it was like a mining.
Yeah, they closed the mine down, but all those families, I mean, there was an article in one of the newspapers, and it was titled "Growing Up Gilman." And I don't know if you remember reading that, but it was really good. It was very thorough. It was the lady who wrote it, or man who wrote it, interviewed some of the people that were still alive that grew up there. Yeah, and I can't remember when they shut it down, but it's sad that when you drive by there and you see like everything dilapidated and yeah, and then you see like the graffiti and it's like, stop.
I know, don't do that, assholes.
Yeah, definitely.
But
well,
Gilman, Colorado close. I did want to say too, it is Edgar Allan Poe's birthday, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow, cool.
It is.
I love Edgar Poe. Yeah.
How are we on time?
We should wind it up because you have to eat barbecue and I have to eat barbecue.
It smells so good.
Maybe that's our ship that we're gonna land this time, is like a like a smoker or like a barbecue grill.
It's not an Oscar Mayer wiener this week.
No, we
it's
can't do
rack of ribs.
No, it's like with like a flying pig. Oh, like a rack of ribs turned upside down, and then you're on the port side, and I'm on the other side, and we have oars, and we're and we're paddling through barbecue sauce.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, this is gonna be something.
Oh, we have like a flag on the top, but it's one of those margarita toothpicks, with the little flag. Umbrella, like an umbrella that you put in a frozen cocktail, but we're paddling through barbecue sauce, and then we're going down the river, we're going to this amazing barbecue restaurant, and then there's rapids ahead, but you know what the rapids are? Hush puppies, or no, tater tots. No, I don't know. What do you think?
Definitely tater tots.
Tater tots.
Tater tot rapids,
or like a loaded baked potato.
Oh my God.
All right, so let's park this rib raft.
I like it.
I can totally visualize it.
I like it a lot.
Rib raft. Oh yeah. Go eat some barbecue this week.
Yeah. Do it, everybody.
Eat barbecue. Even if you're vegan, I'm sure you could find like a delicious tempeh
tofu
barbecue or tofu. Yeah, just eat barbecue. Who cares, right? The sauce
actually might be really good.
It's about the sauce.
It's about the sauce.
Yeah, for sure.
All right,
we're winding it up. Okay, Gilman's coming next, I think.
Yep. Colorado people, go to Moe's.
Oh, absolutely. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to another great episode. Be sure and like, share, or follow this podcast by leaving a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. If you have an experience you'd like to share, be sure and reach out to verbalecho@gmail.com. If you know someone who'd like to tell their story, please send them our way. I want to talk to them. No guardrails. Have a great week, friends. See you in the next episode.